I don't know if you've seen the hit show Squid Game that's taken the world by storm in recent years. But what really stuck with me was the group of people dressed in pink, wearing masks. They coldly pulled the trigger on the game's losers, showing no mercy, no matter how much they beg. When the masks are removed, behind them are young faces, some not even 20 years old. What makes ordinary people become so ruthless? Is it the pressure of the environment, or something deeper within? Do you think this is something that only happens on screens? Let's dive into 2 psychological experiments that reveal how extreme situations can distort human nature, and explore what we can do to prevent losing our humanity in similar circumstances. Milgram's electric shock experiment. In 1965, Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram designed an experiment to test how far ordinary people would go when instructed by an authority figure. Participants were assigned the role of teacher, tasked with testing a student's memory. Every time the student got an answer wrong, the teacher was told to administer any electric shock, starting at 15 volts and escalating gradually to 450 volts. As the experiment progressed, the teacher heard the students' increasingly desperate screams, from soft groans to loud shouts, finally to complete silence. How would you feel if you were the one administering those shocks? Would you be able to keep going? However, the teacher didn't know the student was an actor and that no actual shocks were being delivered. The experimenter calmly instructed, "Continue, the experiment requires you to do so." What happened? Over 60% of participants, despite hearing the student's distress, continued to administer shocks up to the highest level of 450 volts. These weren't cold-hearted guards, they were regular people. But the power of authority led them to ignore the consequences of their actions. The Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment is another famous example of how authority and roles can strip away humanity. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo set up a mock prison and randomly assigned 24 college students to play either guards or prisoners. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks. But after only 6 days, it had to be called off, because things had spiraled out of control. Imagine this: you put on a uniform, wear sunglasses, and stand in a small room holding a baton. You're told that you have the power to maintain order and can use any means necessary to make the prisoners comply. At first, it may seem like a game, but how would it feel to suddenly realize the power you hold? Soon, you start enjoying the power. You see, the prisoners wear numbers and have their individual identities stripped away. They can't speak, only follow orders. How would you react if you were told to make them kneel, or even humiliate them in front of others? At first, the prisoners resist, but over time, they begin to comply. Some start to emotionally break down, others give up, their eyes hollow, and they become emotionally numb. As a guard, you begin to forget that you're only playing this role. You no longer consider whether the prisoners are really suffering, but instead, you view them as tools, part of your management. The original goal of the experiment was to study power structures in prisons, but by the end, the students were completely lost in their roles. All of this happened because of a few days of role-playing and the pressure of the situation. From experiment to history, psychological experiments show us the mechanisms behind how malice is triggered. But history proves how real and chilling it can be. During World War II, Nazi soldiers carried out atrocities that still haunt the world. Many assumed that the perpetrators of these crimes were evil, deranged individuals. But the shocking truth is that most of them were just ordinary people. Nazi official Adolf Eichmann defended his actions during his trial by saying, "I was just following orders." Eichmann didn't see himself as responsible for the murders. He thought he was just a cog in the machine of the Nazi regime. This is very similar to the guards in Squid Game. They weren't confronting real people, with no right to resist and no need to be accountable for the atrocities. They were dealing with faceless participants, treating them as numbers, which makes it easier to overlook their humanity and perform cruel actions. How malice and indifference seep into our lives. While most of us will never face extreme situations like those in Squid Game or the horrors of war, The same psychological mechanisms that fuel indifference and cruelty are present in our daily lives. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you followed the crowd, even when you didn't agree with what was happening? How can we avoid losing our humanity in these situations? The key lies in recognizing when we are about to lose our sense of empathy and acting in those moments. Here's how. Online bullying, the mask of anonymity. On social media, anonymity serves as a mask. People, shielded behind usernames, feel empowered to post hurtful comments like, "You're a failure," or "You're so dumb." It's easy to forget that the person on the other side has feelings just like you. They are not just an avatar or a name on a screen. Why is online cruelty so prevalent? Anonymity breeds indifference. Just like the guards in Squid Game, social media masks our identities. We feel we can say anything but check us. We don't have to face the pain of the person on the other end. But what if we did? Psychological distance magnifies. The person behind the screen becomes an abstract name or image. Their feelings don't seem as real, which makes it easier to dismiss their humanity. What can we do? Cultivate empathy. Next time you're about to comment, ask yourself, would I say this to someone's face? Humanize others. Imagine that person as a friend, family member, or even yourself. Could we be kinder if we saw them as real people? 2. Workplace pressure. The danger of blindly following rules. In many work environments, we can face situations where just following the rules causes harm. Perhaps you've enforced a policy you knew wasn't fair to a client, or given a colleague a poor performance review despite knowing about their personal struggles. Sometimes we follow the rules because we don't want to seem weak or question authority, but that doesn't make it right. How can we avoid this? Reconnect with humanity. When enforcing rules, take a moment to consider how your decisions will affect others. Is it fair to make someone suffer just because it's the right decision in a system? Question the rules. Don't blindly follow orders. Ask yourself, could there be a better way to approach this? Practice compassionate management. Offer support and understanding rather than criticism. Help others improve without solely focusing on their flaws. How to prevent malice from taking over? 1. Close the psychological distance. Whether online or in person, we should remind ourselves that the other person is a real human being. In Squid Game, the guards didn't hesitate even when they saw the players' fear. It was because they viewed them as numbers and tasks, not real human beings. This depersonalization allowed them to carry out their tasks coldly, ignoring the suffering of others. Therefore, the key to closing the psychological distance is to see each person as an individual, rather than an abstract number or goal. 2. Take the first step. In any situation, take the initiative. Whether it's online, at work, or in public, your actions can inspire others to make positive changes. From awareness to action. The guards in Squid Game, the participants in Milgram's experiment, and even figures from history show that malice isn't always rooted in inherent evil. It's often shaped by external pressures, roles, and the suppression of empathy. In our everyday lives, we need to actively fight against these forces. Each of us has the ability to make a difference, to shift our focus from rules to people, from indifference to empathy. The next time you make a decision, ask yourself, if I were in their shoes, how would I feel? It's this simple question that can help us replace malice with kindness, and ultimately make the world a better place for everyone. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.